The Galactic Council sat in their grand hall, a vast chamber filled with representatives of the most powerful species in the galaxy. Ornate pillars of alien design reached up to the domed ceiling, symbolizing their dominion over the stars. The Council's expansion efforts had reached new heights, with planet after planet bending to their will, offering resources and subservience. Earth was the latest target. Next order of business, an Andarian Council member announced, her voice dripping with disdain. Earth. A minor planet, formerly notable for its aggression, but now insignificant. Snickers echoed through the chamber. The Andarian waved a dismissive hand. We'll impose the usual tributes. They should be grateful we've even acknowledged their existence. Another representative, an Ursec warlord with thick, gray skin and a sneer that split his face, leaned forward. I've heard stories from the old days about their wars. Savage, barbaric. But that was centuries ago. They've softened. No real threat. The assembly murmured in agreement. Some even laughed. Earth had long since withdrawn from galactic affairs, and in the eyes of the Council, any power humanity once held was now a distant myth. They're probably too busy squabbling amongst themselves to even notice our demand. The Ursec continued with a smirk. Send a message, submit your resources or face consequences. Simple. An old diplomat, a veteran of past conflicts, raised a cautionary voice. I remember the wars Earth fought centuries ago. The galaxy has forgotten what they are capable of. Perhaps it is wise not to provoke them. His words were met with groans and dismissive gestures. A younger, more arrogant delegate from the Marvac coalition laughed out loud. Please! They're relics of a forgotten era. We are the masters now. The council chamber doors slid open, and the human emissary stepped forward. Dressed in understated formal wear, the human's presence was calm, composed. They were neither intimidated nor eager to please. The laughter died down, replaced by an uneasy silence. I've come on behalf of Earth, the emissary said, voice clear and unyielding. We've received your request for tribute and military aid. The Ursec warlord leaned back, a sneer still plastered on his face. Request? No, this isn't a request. This is an order. The human emissary's eyes flicked to the warlord, unwavering. Earth does not bend to orders. The room shifted with a murmur of disbelief. The emissary continued, their tone neutral, but every word carried weight. We withdrew from galactic affairs because we chose to, not because we were weak. We warned you once before, after the last war. Do not mistake our absence for irrelevance. The Andarian Council member scoffed. Warnings from a forgotten planet. How quaint. The human's gaze swept the room. You've forgotten why you feared us. Do not force us to remind you. The silence that followed was thick with tension. For a moment, the council hesitated. The veteran who had spoken earlier seemed to sense something, but before he could speak, the Andarian dismissed the human with a wave of her hand. Your planet will comply with the tribute. If you don't, we'll send a fleet to remind you of your place. The human did not respond to her insult, merely offering a slight smile, as if the council's arrogance was amusing. As you wish. But remember this, when you come for us, you will learn, once again, who we are. With that, the emissary turned and walked out of the chamber, leaving the council to their laughter and mockery. The moment the doors closed, the discussion resumed as if nothing important had just occurred. Plans for Earth's subjugation moved forward. The Ursec warlord chuckled darkly, eager for the conflict to come. The Marvac delegate leaned forward. We'll send a small fleet, just enough to remind them of their insignificance. If they resist, well, we'll crush them. The Andarian nodded, already distracted by other matters. Do as you see fit. Earth is just another minor system to bring into line. The veteran diplomat, however, remained silent, a cold chill creeping up his spine. He remembered the stories. The galaxy had not always laughed at Earth. The Galactic Council's armada, a formidable fleet designed to subdue any rebellious world, left its docks with confidence. Their ships gleamed in the void of space, engines roaring as they set a course for Earth. To the Council, it was a routine mission, an easy display of force against a planet that had supposedly lost its edge. On Earth, however, preparations were calm and methodical. Deep beneath the surface, in hidden bunkers and concealed command centers, Earth's leadership gathered. They were not caught off guard. They had been watching, planning, waiting for this moment. Admiral Ryland, an older man with sharp eyes and a history of victories few knew about, stood before a screen that showed the approaching fleet. His expression was impassive as he surveyed the alien ships advancing through the stars. Around him, other leaders and strategists, seasoned by years of galactic warfare, remained focused on their tasks. "How long until they reach Earth?" Ryland asked, his voice steady, betraying no hint of concern. 36 hours, give or take," a technician responded, his hands moving quickly across the console. "Their formation is aggressive, but predictable." Ryland nodded. "They expect us to be defenseless. Let's not disappoint them." A ripple of agreement moved through the room. Earth's technology had advanced far beyond what the Council could imagine. The last war had been a mere preview, a glimpse of humanity's potential. Since then, they had developed new weapons, new ships, and new strategies, things the Council would not be prepared for. "We've kept our strength hidden for a reason," Ryland continued, his tone calm but decisive. "Now we'll remind them why we've stayed out of their affairs. Prepare the Sentinel armada. I want everything ready for deployment as soon as they enter our territory." The technicians and officers moved with precision. Earth's fleet, the Sentinel armada, was not designed for intimidation, it was designed for survival and victory. Each ship was a marvel of human engineering, capable of feats the galaxy had never seen. In another part of the command center, Commander Elias reviewed the Council's fleet composition. His sharp eyes flicked over the data, calculating the weaknesses in their formation. "They're overconfident," he muttered to himself. "And they're making the same mistake they always do, underestimating us." Elias had seen it time and again in galactic conflicts, species that believed they were superior, only to be blindsided by the adaptability and ingenuity of humanity. He knew this encounter would be no different. As the hours passed, Earth's defenses remained quiet. The planet appeared as it always did, serene, unsuspecting, giving no indication of the storm about to be unleashed. Satellites, disguised as outdated relics, monitored the approaching fleet, feeding real-time data back to Earth's command. "We'll give them what they expect at first," Ryland said, his eyes narrowing on the display. "Let them think they're in control. Then we'll show them what they've forgotten." The Council's armada crossed into Earth's territory, confident in their superiority. They expected resistance, but nothing significant. After all, Earth had been silent for centuries, its influence in the galaxy diminished to a mere whisper. The aliens believed the planet would fall in line like all the others. But as the fleet approached, they encountered nothing. No defenses, no ships, no signs of military presence. The void around Earth was eerily calm, as if the planet was unaware of their arrival. The Council commanders exchanged puzzled looks. Had Earth truly become this weak? "Scanners are picking up minimal activity," one of the alien commanders reported, his tone disbelieving. "Their defense systems are primitive. No threat detected." The Ursec warlord, leading the armada, let out a growl of satisfaction. "This is what they send us? A planet that can't even defend itself? Pathetic." He raised a clawed hand. "Begin the approach. Let's show them who rules the galaxy now." But just as the first Council ships entered orbit, something changed. Alarms blared across the alien vessels, and suddenly, the space around them was not so empty. Earth's fleet appeared, materializing out of seemingly nowhere. Massive warships, sleek and deadly, phased into view, their cloaking technology far beyond anything the galaxy had seen. The Sentinel armada was here. The Council fleet, once confident, now found themselves surrounded. Panic rippled through their ranks as Earth's ships locked onto them with deadly precision. The human warships didn't fire immediately, though. Instead, they held position, a silent, menacing force. On the command deck of the Council's flagship, the Ursec warlord's sneer faltered. Where did they come from? He barked. I thought this planet was defenseless. They must have been hiding, cloaked. One of his officers stammered, frantically working the controls. Their technology it's far beyond what we expected. The warlord growled again, this time in frustration. We'll crush them anyway. All ships, prepare to engage. But before his orders could be carried out, the lead human vessel opened a communication channel. Admiral Ryland's face appeared on the view screens of every council ship, his expression cold and unreadable. This is Admiral Ryland of Earth's Sentinel Armada, he said, his voice calm and steady. You have entered our space without permission. Leave now, and we will allow you to go unharmed. The warlord snarled. You dare threaten us? We are the Galactic Council. We don't run from anyone, least of all a backwater planet like yours. Ryland's gaze didn't waver. You've forgotten who we are. Leave, or be reminded. The warlord slammed his fist on the console. Attack! Destroy them! But as the Council fleet moved to engage, Earth's ships responded with unparalleled precision. Energy weapons fired, but not to kill. Instead, the human fleet disabled the Council ships one by one, targeting their systems with surgical strikes. In moments, the once mighty armada was paralyzed, their weapons useless, their engines dead in the water. Admiral Ryland watched the display as the Council's ships floated helplessly in space. His voice, when he spoke again, was softer, but no less commanding. This was just a warning. The next time you come for us, there will be no mercy. The battle was over before it had even begun. The Galactic Council's once proud fleet now floated aimlessly in the black expanse of space, disabled, powerless, and humiliated. The silence on the alien command decks was deafening. Crew members, who moments ago had been so sure of their victory, now stood frozen in disbelief, staring at the wreckage of their ambitions. The arrogance that had propelled them toward Earth had been shattered in an instant. Admiral Ryland watched from the bridge of his flagship, his expression calm and measured. The Council had never expected this outcome, and they certainly hadn't expected Earth to show such restraint. The Sentinel Armada, Earth's elite fleet, could have obliterated the Council's forces, wiping them from existence without breaking a sweat. But that wasn't the goal. This was a lesson, not an extermination. Status report, Ryland ordered, though he already knew the answer. All enemy ships are disabled. His second-in-command confirmed. No fatalities on their side, as ordered. We've sent repair drones to secure their systems, just enough to ensure they can limp back home. Ryland nodded. Good. They'll need time to think about what's happened here. The truth was, Earth had outgrown the need for galactic recognition. They had no desire for conquest or dominion. Their withdrawal from galactic politics all those centuries ago hadn't been an act of cowardice or weakness, it had been a choice. A deliberate decision to allow the galaxy to forget their power while they prepared for something greater. Over the years, humanity had focused inward, evolving their technology, their strategies, and their military might in secret. While the Council had busied itself with petty power plays, Earth had been quietly perfecting its defenses, building ships like those in the Sentinel Armada, ships the galaxy wasn't ready to face. And now, that power had been revealed once again. But this time, it was tempered with wisdom and restraint. Ryland's attention shifted to the transmission screen. Earth's leaders had been monitoring the entire engagement from a secure, underground location. The Prime Minister's face appeared on the screen, her expression reflecting the same controlled calm that Ryland embodied. Admiral, she said, her voice firm but not without warmth. Well done. The Council will have no choice but to acknowledge this display of force. They'll have plenty of time to think on it, Prime Minister, Ryland replied. But we didn't destroy them. We gave them a chance to retreat, to regroup. What comes next depends on them. The Prime Minister nodded thoughtfully. Indeed. They'll either learn from this or make the mistake of retaliating. Either way, we'll be ready. That was the key difference between Earth and the Council. The Council sought control, domination, and tribute. They thrived on arrogance, believing their power to be absolute. But Earth had learned long ago that true strength wasn't about showing off might at every opportunity. It was about using it wisely, sparingly, and with purpose. The emissary who had stood before the council just days earlier, quietly warning them not to push humanity too far, had returned to Earth. Now, he sat in one of the observation rooms, watching the events unfold through the wide windows of the space station. A small smile played on his lips. The council had laughed in his face when he delivered humanity's message. They had scoffed at the thought of Earth being a force to reckon with. But now, as they scrambled to salvage what remained of their fleet, there was no laughter. Only the cold, hard reality of their mistake. The Galactic Council, for all its posturing, had miscalculated. They believed the myths surrounding Earth had been exaggerated, that the stories of past wars were just that, stories. But now they knew. Now, there was no room for doubt. Earth's power was real, and it was more formidable than the Council had ever imagined. As the repair drones worked to patch up the crippled ships, the Council's commanders remained silent, their faces pale with a mixture of disbelief and fear. They had underestimated Earth. They had forgotten the lessons of the past. And now, they had been reminded in the most devastating way possible. Meanwhile, Ryland's crew maintained their quiet efficiency. There were no cheers of victory, no celebration. This wasn't about gloating or rubbing the Council's nose in their defeat. This was about sending a message that Earth wasn't to be trifled with. The restraint they had shown was deliberate, a calculated move to demonstrate not only their superiority but also their control over that power. Back on Earth, the general population remained blissfully unaware of the drama unfolding in space. Life continued as usual, with the vast majority of humanity oblivious to the fact that they had once again avoided a galactic war. And that was exactly how their leaders wanted it. Earth had no need for the kind of glory or recognition that the Council sought. Their goal wasn't to become the galaxy's ruler, it was to ensure their survival and autonomy, to live free from the shackles of otherworldly interference. The Council, however, would have no such peace. Their return to their core worlds would be one of humiliation and confusion. Their leaders would have to explain how they, the supposed rulers of the galaxy, had been brought low by a planet they had dismissed as irrelevant. The power dynamics of the galaxy had shifted, and the Council knew it. The question now was how they would respond. Ryland's thoughts mirrored this uncertainty. "They've been reminded," he said quietly to his second-in-command. "But whether they'll learn from this, that's the real test." The officer beside him nodded, his expression serious. "If they're smart, they'll think twice before challenging us again. But if history has taught us anything, it's that arrogance dies hard." Ryland didn't respond immediately. He knew that arrogance all too well. The Council's sense of superiority had been built over centuries, solidified by their ability to crush weaker worlds. But Earth wasn't weak. Earth had never been weak. They had simply chosen to wait, to observe, and to bide their time. The question now was whether the Council would finally realize that strength wasn't measured by conquest or domination. True strength was in knowing when to strike and, more importantly, when to show mercy. Earth had done both. "We'll be ready," Ryland said at last, his eyes still fixed on the disabled Council ships. "No matter what they decide." And with that, Earth once again withdrew to the shadows of the galaxy, its power undeniable, but its motives clear. They had shown their strength not for glory, not for tribute, but for peace, an uneasy peace that now rested on the Council's next move. As the Galactic Council's battered fleet limped back to their core worlds, the consequences of their hubris rippled through every corner of the galaxy. The news spread like wildfire. Earth had not only defeated the Council's finest armada but had done so with ease, revealing a strength no one had anticipated. The Council chambers, once filled with the arrogance of its most powerful species, were now a place of tension, fear, and uncertainty. The Council members, shaken from their previous overconfidence, convened in an emergency session. Each representative, usually so quick to assert their dominance, now spoke in hushed tones, their eyes darting nervously to one another. The bravado that had filled the room when they issued demands to Earth had evaporated, replaced by the cold reality of their misjudgment. At the center of the room stood the human emissary. He had returned, but this time, the demeanor of the council had drastically changed. Gone was the mockery, the sneers, the dismissive gestures. Now, they regarded him with a mix of caution and thinly veiled fear. His calm, collected presence seemed to unsettle them even more. "I trust," the emissary began, his voice measured and authoritative, "that this demonstration has made Earth's position clear." No one dared interrupt him. Even the most outspoken members of the council remained silent, unwilling to provoke any further displays of force from the humans. They had all seen the footage of their armada being dismantled with clinical precision. It wasn't just the defeat itself that haunted them, it was the restraint. Humanity hadn't annihilated the council's forces. They had held back, choosing to disable rather than destroy. It was a message more terrifying than any overt show of brute force. Earth could have wiped them out, but they didn't. They had chosen mercy. The emissary continued, his eyes scanning the room. "For centuries, Earth has remained neutral, uninterested in galactic politics or conquest. But do not mistake that for weakness. We do not seek control, nor do we desire tribute or territory. What we seek is respect, mutual respect, and peace. What we will not tolerate is disrespect, exploitation, or threats to our sovereignty." The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. The council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats, their minds racing to consider the full ramifications of Earth's stance. The very foundation of their authority, their ability to control and dominate other species, had been challenged. Worse yet, they had been reminded that humanity was not a force to be trifled with. One of the braver council members, a high-ranking official from a warlike species, finally spoke. "What assurances do we have that Earth won't use this power to impose its will on the rest of the galaxy?" The human emissary turned his gaze to the speaker, his expression unreadable. "Earth has had this power for centuries, and yet we have not imposed our will on anyone. If we desired conquest, you would already be under our rule. We do not seek domination. But make no mistake, if provoked, we will defend ourselves and those who cannot defend themselves." The room fell into a stunned silence once again. The council had always operated on the assumption that power was meant to be wielded, that strength was meant to be shown through force. But here was Earth, demonstrating the very opposite. True strength lay in restraint, in the ability to wield immense power but choosing when, and how, to use it. The Prime Minister's voice echoed through the emissary's earpiece, relaying the message that had already been drafted on Earth. It was time to finalize their position. "Here are Earth's terms," the emissary said, cutting through the silence. "First, there will be no further attempts to impose tributes, tariffs, or any form of subjugation upon Earth or its allies. We will not be drawn into your wars, nor will we be exploited for resources. Second, we offer a new treaty, one that ensures the sovereignty of all species within the galaxy, free from coercion, free from exploitation, and free from forced alliances. Those who wish to engage with Earth may do so as equals. Those who do not wish to engage with us will be left in peace." The council members exchanged uneasy glances. This wasn't just a power play. This was a reshaping of the very structure of the galaxy. Earth's proposition wasn't merely about ensuring their own autonomy. It was about redefining the balance of power across the entire galactic community. For species that had long benefited from the Council's dominance, this was a bitter pill to swallow. But for those who had suffered under the Council's rule, it was a beacon of hope. The representative from a smaller, often subjugated species spoke up. "And what of those of us who have long been oppressed by the Council? Does Earth offer protection to us as well?" The human emissary turned to face the speaker, his expression softening slightly. "Earth believes in the right of all species to determine their own fate. If you seek protection, Earth will consider you an ally. But we do not seek to become the galaxy's police force. We will defend ourselves and our allies, but we expect other species to take responsibility for their own freedom." The smaller species representative nodded, visibly relieved. This was the opportunity many had been waiting for. the chance to break free from the Council's iron grip without being absorbed into another empire. The Council's most powerful members, however, remained silent. They had built their empires on the backs of weaker species, and now they stood at a crossroads. To continue their policies of domination and risk open conflict with Earth, or to accept a new era of balance and cooperation. It was clear that the latter was the safer option, but for many of them, the thought of relinquishing control was unthinkable. The emissary's voice broke through their internal deliberations. Make no mistake, this is not a negotiation. These are Earth's terms. Accept them, and we will coexist peacefully. Reject them, and there will be consequences. He didn't need to elaborate. The image of their armada, crippled and humiliated, was fresh in their minds. Earth had made its point crystal clear. There would be no second chances. The council chamber remained eerily silent for several moments, tension thick in the air. Finally, one by one, the council members nodded in reluctant agreement. They had no choice. Earth's power had been demonstrated, and their will had been made clear. To defy them would be to invite destruction. The human emissary gave a single, respectful nod in return. Then it is settled. Earth will continue to exist on its own terms, as will you. Let this be a lesson to all, underestimate us at your own peril. With that, the emissary turned and left the chamber, his mission complete. Behind him, the council members sat in a stunned, contemplative silence. The galaxy had changed, and they knew it. As Earth's fleet withdrew back to the edges of the galaxy, the message had been sent, and it would not be forgotten. Earth had once again shown the galaxy its power, but more importantly, it had shown them the wisdom that came with it. The Council had been reminded of their place, and humanity would once again fade into the background, watching, waiting, and ensuring that peace, however fragile, remained intact.